Hello everyone. So our first book is Howl's Moving Castle by Wynne Jones. This is of course a classic movie that I have never seen, but I would like to see, especially after reading the book. It is a children's book. It's extremely wholesome and sweet. So if you're looking for something that is easy to read, doesn't take a lot of mental effort to get through, you want something that makes you feel good, I would go for this book. Our protagonist, Sophie, is a young woman who is working in her stepmother's hat shop when she is cursed to become an old woman. This is obviously not a great turn of events for her, and she, through a series of circumstances, finds herself in the local wizard's castle. The local wizard is named Howl, and it is his moving castle that the book is titled after. And they have, a series of adventures. She tries to break the curse, etc., etc. In addition to just being a sweet and fun time, it was surprisingly complicated. The plot had depth to it that I didn't necessarily expect from a children's book. I checked this out from the library, but I'm planning on buying a copy of it because I am 100% going to read this book again. Okay, now we're going for Red Side Story. So, if I knew you in 2010 and you like to read, there is a extremely high probability that I recommended the book Shades of Grey by Jasper Fforde, not 50 Shades of Grey. Then, probably shortly thereafter, you were disappointed with me because I recommended you a book that ended in a cliffhanger. At some point in time, I had to stop recommending the book because he didn't publish a sequel until this year. So it took nearly 15 years for the sequel, Red Side Story, to come out. Because I don't want to spoil the plot of the first book, I'm not going to talk about what happens in the second book, but I will tell you a little bit about the world and my pitch for getting into this series, now that there are at least 2 books in the series. It takes place in a world where one's place in society, and therefore one's occupation, marital partners, hobbies even, are determined by how much color and what color you can see. So at the very top of the hierarchy, there are violet, people who can see purple, and they kind of are the governing body of society. And then all the way down to the lowest rung of society, those who can't see color or can only see a very small amount of color, they are the grays, and they are the kind of marginalized people of society. There's also a very complicated and sometimes a nonsensical set of rules that everyone in society follows very strictly, including designated outfit selections for different events. And if you... Sophie! Okay. Sophie is outside, where she wants to be. Throughout the first book, you really kind of discover a lot of the really interesting world building, and you discover these kind of like tantalizing clues as to why the world is the way that it is, why this society has evolved in this way. And so you get to the end of the first book, there's a cliffhanger. The second book starts with a cliffhanger, and somehow, despite the fact that we've already gotten so much detail and so much like interesting tidbits about this world, the second book manages to kick it up to another level. Delightful book, does not end on a cliffhanger, which is great for my ability to recommend it. Red Side Story by Jasper Fforde, one of the Shades of Grey series.
It is said as Michiko. Finished before
Michiko. Our next book is What You Are Looking For Is in the Library by Michiko Aoyama. It is a cozy book with short stories of different people, different walks of life, different ages, who have been impacted in a big way by discovering the local branch of their library. It takes place in Tokyo. The book is translated from Japanese. I really enjoyed both the cozy and heartwarming little stories that were in the book. as well as getting a kind of a glimpse at what everyday life is like in Japan. Apparently, this author has written quite a few books in Japanese that haven't been translated, so I have hopes that we will get more books like this, since this one was so successful. 2 more books. The second to last is technically a series of books, the Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells. This is a very popular sci-fi series that for some reason I have not read yet. But I'm kind of glad I waited until now because I could read a whole bunch of them at one time, which was great. The series follows a protagonist who is a construct who has been created for the purposes of security. They are owned by a corporation and are rented out to organizations who need security because they're doing something dangerous. And this particular construct has hacked themselves, so they now effectively have free will and control over their own actions. When the first book starts, this was in the past, so they have just been doing their job for years, but with free will, so they can watch movies in their spare, they can watch, not movies, they can watch like soap operas, I think is what they probably are in their spare time. And then, in the first book, of course, a series of events kicks off and things are never the same again. It's a series of adventures set in space with evil corporations. One of my main pitches for these books is that they don't require a lot of brain power to read. They're very fast-paced. They're very they do the same thing that a good romance book will do, where it kind of, you get sucked into the world and you don't really have to stop to think about a lot or keep track of things. It just is going, except instead of kissing, it's punching or laser guns shooting. Also, most of them are novella length, so a lot of them are really short and quick to get through. The other piece of it, besides being really fast-paced and easy to get into, is there are a lot of surprisingly emotional moments throughout that are really well architected. They're not over the top, but they're still very poignant, and we have a very nice character arc throughout the series that I really enjoyed reading. So that again is the Murderbot series by Martha Wells. Our last book today is The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennet. This was published this year, and the short and easy way to describe this book is Sherlock Holmes but fantasy. And that's how it's marketed, and that's what it is. I picked up this book a few times actually before I got into it because the world building is a little intense. And the first couple of chapters are a little bit slow, I think. But once I got into it, I really got into it. The world building, particularly, it was so interesting to me because the technology in this society has evolved not through mechanical means, as ours did, but through bioengineering. And so all of the kind of problems that we solved through developing machines, they have solved by augmenting people and animals and plants to perform functions. Our protagonist is augmented, so he has undergone a process to be able to have a perfect photographic memory. And our protagonist works for a detective who is extremely eccentric and refuses to leave her house. So at the beginning, we're kicked off into a murder scene, and it kind of, it develops from there as this mystery unfolds. It was really great. I really, really loved the world building. I liked the characters, and it was a good, solid, complicated, but not too complicated mystery. Very much enjoyed. I'm looking forward to another book in this series. I assume it's a series because it says number 1 in the title. That's it for me today. I appreciate you listening to this. If you have any really great recommendations that you've read from this year, I would love to hear what they are. Or if you have read these books and want to let me know what you think about them, I would love to hear that. I hope everyone has a great second half of 2024, and I will see you later. Bye.